Good morning, guys. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, and AFL Grand Final week. We absolutely love it. Day two, only 4 days to go. Can't wait. And congratulations to our man Patrick Cripps of the Carlton Football Club, who won his second Brownlow medal last night in the second in 3 years. Actually, won in 2022 as well. And if you're not quite sure what the Brownlow medal is, if you're from interstate or overseas, or you just don't care, it's the league best and fairest. And our man Cripper got the job done with a record number of votes, 45 votes. So we love you, Cripper, and let's hope you can add a premiership to that tally next year or the year after, whatever it might be. But anyway, on to the boxing, and I was sort of going over a few things happening for Aussie boxers last night. For the remainder of the year, we're talking Tim Tszyu against Murtazalia, Opetaia against Massey. Maybe we might have George Kambosos in a big fight. Maybe it'll be Liam Paro defending that title. Maybe Sam Goodman in December against Inoue. We're not sure, but what it got me thinking was that, geez, those fights are a possibility to come, or they are either happening or a possibility to happen in the remainder of 3 months of the year. And it just got me thinking of what has happened this year so far. And I think you probably could not argue against the fact that this is probably the best year of Aussie boxing in history. And I know that is a bold statement. We've had many big years over the journey, but when you struggle to keep up with the amount of big fights that Aussie boxers are in, and the magnitude of those fights and where they are and everything else, it's just amazing. I think to try and get your head around just how big Aussie boxing has been this year. I know it's been building over the last probably 2 or 3 years, maybe a little bit longer, but I think it all culminated this year and all just colliding, and we've just got one of those perfect storm type of years. And we'll go over some of the fights. I mean, you run through, and you start at the top. I'm sort of work our way down. I'm just trying to work my way through the names. But someone like the Jai Opetaia, been fighting on the reality cards, of course. His last fight was that epic over Marius Briedis, defeated Briedis for the second time. This is the second most dominant cruiserweight of the last decade, apart from Alexander Usyk, and Jai Opetaia beat him twice and really solidified himself as the number one cruiserweight in the world. And just so many possibilities for Jai going forward. I know he's got the fight coming up with Massey in a few weeks, but to think that could he have the winner of Bivol and Beterbiev move up to cruiserweight to fight him, or could he say, all right, well, I'm done with the cruiserweights and I'll go up to heavyweight and try and chase greatness up there? It's just some amazing possibilities for Jai, and the prospect of the amount of money and prestige, and you name it, what he's on the verge of it's just amazing. And this is a guy that's worked extremely hard to get there. And of course, wish him all the luck going forward. But so you've got Jai, we've got, of course, Tim Tszyu. I mean, this guy headlined T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas on a card that had, 3 or 4 other world title fights on the card. I know the Thurman fight fell over. Fate always seems to step in. Fundora enters the equation, and of course the rest is history. But the fact that we've got Tim Tszyu headlining at the T-Mobile Arena is just hard to get your head around. And on the undercard, even though it didn't end well for him, Michael Zarafa, to fight Erizandi Lara for the WBA title as well. So to have, I'm not sure that's happened in the past, we've got 2 Aussies fighting on a card for world titles on the same event, let alone on a stage the size of the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So it's really hard to sort of get your head around. And then, of course, Tim's got the big fight with Murtazalia coming up, and you go down the list, and there's Liam Paro. Who could forget the fight, the win over Subriel Matias, an upset of the ages, did it in Puerto Rico, and now on the verge of fights with the likes of Devin Haney, possibly George Kambosos, but all those guys are now looking at Liam Paro. He's got the belt, and again, the magnitude of the fights that he is going to be on the verge of, the money he's on the verge of making is just mind-boggling as well. And again, this is a quiet kid from far north Queensland who just had a dream and went for it. So you put him on the list. You've got Jason Maloney. He's had the 2 fights this year. He fought in Canada earlier in the year, and was it Sanchez, I think it was, and beat him, and then goes on the road again to Japan. Was it Takai he fought, or Taki, however you pronounce it? It's just crazy to think, and who knows, he's in Japan at the moment. He might have another big fight maybe coming up over there in Japan. And then George Kambosos, don't get much bigger, do they? In the RAC Arena in Perth, fighting Vasily Lomachenko, another pay-per-view. Coming off fights over two with, of course, Devin Haney and the Teofimo Lopez fight. That alone is just massive, but I think that's, just one of a bunch. Liam Wilson, of course, fought Navarrete earlier in the year. That was on the back of Valdez, he fought earlier in this year. Before that was Navarrete. Sam Goodman has just been winning. I just feel a little bit, not sorry, but I feel for Sam Goodman a little bit that his world title fight's probably going to be that, or it is going to be that one with Naoya Inoue, who just looks absolutely unstoppable at the moment. I'm not quite sure how Sam gets the job done, but the fact that he's going to probably go to Japan and fight Naoya Inoue probably in front of 40 or 50,000 fans for the undisputed 122-pound title. Again, any other year, that would be the fight, but it's now just one amongst many. So, but I mean, you look at some, I've probably forgotten some, but all the fighters, sorry, we haven't even mentioned the females, have we? I mean, we've got Shanika Johnson. She reclaimed, she had the IBF, didn't she? I think she just won the WBA belt. Sky Nicholson with the WBC belt. Ebony Bridges didn't fight this year, she fought last year, didn't she? So we had Shay Keneally win the WBA light heavyweight belt. I mean, it's amazing to think that we're trying to remember all these great fights. So, I mean, in the years gone by, I know every sort of year or every sort of era, we've always had an Aussie boxer that was around the mark or was a world champion or was doing great things. But the fact we've had so many this year that have won world titles, and we've got more to come. All those fights I've just mentioned, we've got Zhu, Opataya, we've got, I think, is it Scott? I'm sure Sky Nicholson will have another defence. You would think that, I'm not sure about Shanika Johnson, but we've got Liam Paro will have another defence. George Kambosos will fight maybe for a title. Goodman against Inoue. So it's just amazing to think that what is going on in Australian boxing, and not just those fighters that are in those massive fights. I'm probably more looking at even as the underbelly of Australian boxing, with all those fighters coming up and the platforms that they now have. And I'm talking about the coming of the PBS, Premier Boxing Series on 7+. That has added a whole new dimension to Australian boxing. Of course, we already had No Limit on Fox, and I think they've really stepped it up now by outsourcing to promotional firms like Wildfighter. I think we're going to get a lot better quality of events, better locations, better quality of fights, probably a little bit better work put into them, and that's no fault of No Limit. It's just that they haven't really got the time to be doing those smaller shows, and I think it showed in some of those earlier cards that they did, or events. They just looked like they were just sort of throwing together a little bit, even though they had some good fights on them. But now, looking at that Wildfighter one last week, I think that will be the way to go forward for them. We've had even the promoters have done some stuff on Stan. Of course, we've still got Tasman Fighters with DAZN. So it's pretty crazy. Actually, speaking of Tasman Fighters and DAZN, I didn't actually mention it the other day. I mean, again, you talk about the fighters sort of coming through the big heavyweight Terramona. He's going to be turning pro after his campaign at the Olympics, and that's probably got a little bit ugly. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. They did go to court. I think Terramona was trying to get out of his contract with Tasman and go to Matchroom with Eddie Hearn. Interesting to see how that's going to play out, because Eddie Hearn and Tasman fighters have done some good things together, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. They've just gone to court about it. But so Teremona has to stay with Tasman fighters and turn pro with them. So we'll see what plays out with that. But yeah, just some amazing things. As for the pound for pound list, again, it's really hard. I think we've got probably a top maybe 3 or 4 that you could probably throw a blanket over and probably make an argument for anyone being number 1. I would think that probably Jai Pattaya would still be number 1 for me. I think, well, for obvious reasons, he's just been a bit of a steamroller at the moment, hasn't he? He's just been going through everybody, and he's got another chance against Massey in a couple of weeks. So I would still have him at number 1. Number 2, there has been some arguments probably about who should be number 2. I still would stick with Tim Tszyu, and I know he lost his last fight, but I think it was under extenuating circumstances. I think you've got to give him a little bit of credit for his body of work before that. So I've got him still at number 2. I would have Liam Paro at number 3. Well, you can't go past that fight with Matthias, can you? I mean, it was just an unbelievable performance. And he could solidify that with a fight against whether it be Haney or Prograis or Lopez, whoever it might be. But number 4, I would probably have Jason Maloney. I think Jason Maloney would be just above George Kambosos. It's interesting that 3 of the top 5 are coming off losses, but it is what it is, I suppose. But I just think Jason Maloney, being the road warrior that he is, he's gone all over the world, defended against the best fighters in the world. Of course, he lost his last fight, but I'm sure he'll get another crack. George Kambosos, look, just a major player, or was a major player in the lightweight scene, going up to 140. But I just think that the fact that he's lost, what, 4 of his last 5, is it? 3 of his last 4. And the questionable fight over Maxi Hughes just sort of drops him back a little bit. Whether he can come back at the top level, I suppose, remains to be seen. But I've got him at number 4. You'll probably have to put Sam Goodman at number 5. I think, again, his body work's been good. Some of his opponents may be questionable, but look, he's kept winning. He's had a couple of good wins over overseas fighters, so I would have him at number 5. I'm just trying to just remember a lot of the... I would probably have... Wow. Actually, one fighter I didn't mention earlier on, and I apologise, Alex Winwood, of course, fought for the world title a few weeks ago. I didn't even give him a mention, so apologies to Alex. And I think he would be in my top 10. I'll get to him in a sec. But I think you would probably still have to have... Would you have Liam Wilson still at number 6? This is where the bottom 5 could be any particular order, but I'll probably have Liam Wilson. I would have Nikita Tszyu in there. I would have Alex Winwood in there now. I'd probably have Justice Hoodie in there. I would have, I'm not sure how many that is. I'm just trying to think who else is there. Let me know anyway, guys. Sorry, apologies about that. I didn't have a list in mind. I've just sort of rattled them off. But that's where we're at the moment, with so many great Aussie fighters are doing great things. It's pretty hard just to do a top 10. I mean, we've got maybe Michael Zarafa on the outskirts, I suppose, but he needs to get a good win before he enters the equation as well. So, but yeah, really, really good times in Australian boxing at the moment, and even some potential fights that might be out there. I mean, who knows down the track? Could we get a Sam Goodman, Jason Maloney all Aussie fight? Could we get? I know there's been lots of talk about Nikita and Michael Zarafa, but could we see Michael Zarafa against the likes of a Matteo Tapia? Andrei Mikhailovich. And I haven't mentioned Andrei Mikhailovich, by the way, because he's from our part of the world, but he's a Kiwi. So good luck to him, by the way, but he's still fighting a Kiwi. Or he's a Kiwi, sorry. So some other fights, of course, there might be maybe Huni and Dempsey McKean. So many good fights out there. I'm just rattling off a few anyway, but the fact that we've had so many big fights and more to come, and prospective super fights here in Australia between Aussies, it's just a fantastic year, and just one of those years, as I said earlier, a perfect storm of what's happening in Aussie boxing. And I think how far we've come in so little a time. I mean, what was it, just about 5 years ago, all we had was sort of Jeff Horn. He was our man, and along came Tim Tszyu and Kambosos and Opataya and the Maloneys, and you name it, they've all come along. So really, really great time in Aussie boxing. So guys, that is going to be it for today, Tuesday, September 24th. Hope you have a great day, and we will catch you tomorrow.